Hello everyone. My name is DK Joshi. I am the Chief Economist for CRISIL. Today I have two distinguished visitors from Standard & Poor's, Beth Ann Bovino, who is the Chief Economist for US, and Paul Grunwald, who is the Chief Economist for Asia Pacific region. Welcome to the show, Beth. Welcome to the show, Paul. We've been hearing a lot about US recovery. Sometimes it seemed to sputter last year, but again, I think it's gaining strength. And you recently lowered your forecast to 3%, but it's still quite strong. So what is driving the US recovery? What are the factors that will make it sustainable going ahead?
Sure. Yeah, we've definitely had some ups and downs for the U.S. recovery, but overall we're pretty optimistic about it. A couple of reasons why is we're seeing jobs numbers coming in real strong. We've seen now 12 months of job gains, basically 260,000 job gains per month. That's something that we certainly didn't see 3 or 4 years ago. And when that happens, people have money in their pockets. That means they can spend a bit more. That certainly means that businesses get revenues. You can see sort of the possibility of a self-fulfilling prophecy for the U.S. recovery. All positive news, and one of the reasons why we are optimistic about 2015. One thing, though, about the reason why we did lower our forecast is because one of the factors in the first quarter that hit across most parts of the U.S. economy and the U.S., basically the U.S. regions, is that it got real cold. Lots of snow, lots of snow, lots of freezing temperature, slowed down economic activity. That actually put a damper on growth in the U.S. economy. That's only one reason, though. Two other factors that we would actually drill into: the dollar strength is certainly hurting exports. We've seen some signs of that in terms of manufacturing data. And third, while oil prices, as we see as a positive net on net for the U.S. recovery, it is hurting the energy sector. And we do expect to see some pullback in terms of investments in that sector, which will weigh on the first quarter growth. Overall, though, we see the U.S. economy holding up rather well. A couple of sectors that we see positive news moving forward. Housing, we think housing certainly got a weak start in the first quarter, but part of that is because of the week. Basically, it was so cold you couldn't get a shovel into the snow to build a foundation to build a house. But signs that permits are up, people plant. It seems like building plans to go ahead, just waiting for the warm weather to come. Consumer spending we expect to hold up rather well, not just because of jobs are being created, but because we expect wages to start to pick up as well as those job gains continue further on.
Well, usually U.S. recovery is a very good news for the Asia-Pacific region, and we see exports picking up, growth picking up, but this time the growth has actually been scaled down. So why is the U.S. recovery not benefiting Asia the way it used to?
Yeah, well, that's a key question for us, DK. What we would normally see is when we get a pickup in the U.S., we would see exports from Asia to the U.S. Really increase by a multiple of that number, led by the tiger economies, Korea, Taiwan, in Singapore and Hong Kong. We're not really seeing that in the last couple of quarters. As Beth Ann said, the US is looking better, but we really see a very patchy export recovery in the Asia region, and there's probably only two answers to that. One is it's cyclical, and it's going to pick up as the US economy gains strength. The other is there may be some structural factors at play, maybe the structure of trade, more production centered on China, less inter-regional trade, but we're not getting the usual bang for the buck from a U.S. recovery in terms of export growth. If this continues, we may have to mark down some of the growth rates for the more open, trade-dependent tiger economies in the region. Probably not such a huge issue for countries like India.
Well, so that's not so good news for Asia as a whole, but there's another risk looming, which is the Fed raising its interest rates. And when do you think when do you think Fed is going to move? I mean, is it June? Is it September? And would like your views on that.
Sure. Well, first, it is gloomy for markets. That's sure. I mean, we kind of call it a separation anxiety. A lot of markets are used to the easy money and it's going away. But keep in mind, there's a good news behind that is that, well, the reason why the Fed's raising rates is because they're optimistic about the U.S. recovery. So that's a positive overall. Now, we think I think the Fed sees the data similar to we do. They're pretty optimistic about the U.S. recovery. They see it, particularly the jobs numbers. They're very confident that they've they've met that mandate. The Fed has two mandates. One is inflation control, basically maintaining stable prices. Another is basically jobs, or the unemployment rate has to be at a certain range. They seem to be very comfortable with the employment aspect of it. Inflation right now is a little too low for them. However, because jobs are so strong, they can expect to see inflation pick up as well. So they seem to be somewhat confident that that's going to be picking up, giving them reason to move. We do expect them to move. We think it's probably going to be in September of this year. We think that though they'll take their time once they do. Probably a very slow process, as they say, until they reach that exit rate of, I think what they're saying is now 3.75.
Last time when we heard movement from the Fed as far as the tapering of the quantitative easing is concerned, we saw a lot of volatility in the markets, the taper tantrum as it's called, and we saw some of the Asian economy currencies really taking a big hit. Do you think Asia is better prepared now, or how well, or what else do we need to do?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd say that we get these periodic bouts of market volatility, and there's a sell-off of emerging markets, and each one's a little bit different. The one you mentioned last time, which was 2003 when Fed Chairman Bernanke, 2013 when Fed Chairman Bernanke announced the end of tapering. That particular one hit India and Indonesia hard because those economies were seen as having unsustainable current account deficits. Both of those countries corrected in the sense that we've got a little bit slower growth, lower imports, and much narrower current account imbalances. So they look better placed this time around. So we'll have to see how the Fed and the markets interact this time going forward. But I would think overall the Asia Pacific region looks a little bit better placed in terms of external vulnerability than it was the last time around.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Paul.